This week may have been the most depressing week of fantasy football in my life. I was up late last night watching the end of that Falcons game. I won one of my leagues. The other two of my leagues, I lost by 1 point in my main league to the Younghoe Koo extra point to win the Falcons the game. I lost by less than 1 point because of an extra point at the very end of Monday Night Football. Very sad. On top of that, in another league where I had Koo, I lost by less than 4 points. A 40-yard field goal was all I needed, so Younghoe Koo scored just enough points to beat me in one league and just didn't score enough points to win me another league. I am in 2 other leagues just for fun, a guillotine league and then what we call a big points league. It's a random league with 3 quarterbacks and 6 wide receivers and 4 running backs. Anyway, in that league with those rosters, 3 quarterbacks, 6 wide receivers, 4 running backs, I also lost by less than 1 point. This week, in 3 of the 5 leagues I'm in, I lost by less than 1 point. And in the league where I lost by 3.5 points, if I started Deontay Johnson over Keon Coleman, I also would have lost by 0.8 point. I potentially could have lost 4 leagues this week, all by less than 1 point. It doesn't get any more depressing than that. It doesn't get any more heartbreaking than that. That's fantasy football. Anyway, this is On the Wire week 2. Let's see who's on the wire. Let's see who we could add to get our teams that 1 extra point that we apparently need to push us over the hump headed into week 3. First things first, we're going to start with the quarterbacks. Derek Carr seems like he is a must-add moving forward. The way the Saints have looked through the first 2 weeks, they just beat up on the Cowboys. Derek Carr and the Saints, are they the real deal? I think you need to stash Derek Carr at the very least. He is QB2 so far through 2 weeks. He is averaging 21.5 points per game. He's QB2. He's doing better than probably whoever you have on your roster. You need to add Derek Carr right now. After him, Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, stash them away. They're both also top 10 quarterbacks. Geno Smith, I feel like you expect to be a fringe top 10 guy with the weapons that he has, but Sam Darnold, big surprise. He has Justin Jefferson. He had that 97-yard touchdown pass. But could it be a rebirth for Sam Darnold? It's the question everyone's been asking, and he's looked pretty good so far through the first 2 weeks. All right, moving ahead to running backs. Now, this one is also pretty easy. Yet again, week after week, there's not too many running backs to add. Add Carson Steele. Add Samaje Perine if he's available in your league. Isaiah Pacheco is out. He's going to miss at least a month, maybe 2. Samaje Perine is probably going to be the RB1. Do they really trust undrafted rookie Carson Steele to carry the load? Clyde Edwards-Helaire also started the year on IR, which is very unfortunate. I know Samaje Perine just joined the team before week 1, but he's the veteran. He probably has the best odds of getting the ball going forward. Next up, we're going to look at Miles Sanders. Yet again, we mentioned him last week as well. He's not a sexy name, and I mean, he only has 7.7 points through 2 weeks, but he did have 7 carries, and he did have 3 catches this week. And that's something that we like. We like the 3 catches. I mean, Andy Dalton is about to take over in Carolina. Better quarterback play, maybe more potential to rush. They've been in big deficits every single game. They've had to pass, and they've had a quarterback who can't pass. So maybe now they could run a little bit more until Jonathan Brooks comes back. Next up, we're going to look at Jamal Williams. If you want some cheap touchdown equity, he's the number 1 backup for Alvin Kamara. They've been running Alvin Kamara ragged through the first 2 weeks. Alvin Kamara's looked great. He had 4 touchdowns last week, but someone needs to spell him here and there. And Jamal Williams, he could come in and get a cheap touchdown. He has like 40 yards in each of the first 2 games. He has 19 carries and 1 touchdown already. So he could be worth a bench stash in case you're really desperate. And now we're going to look at D'Onta Foreman on Cleveland. Now, D'Onta Foreman had 14 carries, 1 reception, about 50 total yards, but he only was on the field for like 35% of the snaps. So, 14 carries on a 35% snap share. Basically, whenever he was on the field, you had to have known he was going to get the ball at that rate. But still, somebody on the field less than 40% of the time, I really don't like that too much. It could go up moving forward, but I feel like Jerome Ford, I don't want to call Jerome Ford a workhorse back, but I think he has a solid handle on that role in Cleveland. I don't think D'Onta Foreman is too much of a threat going forward. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Nick Chubb will be back soon, though, so I'm not worried about D'Onta Foreman. Now moving on to the wide receivers. Jawan Jennings is my must-add this week. Deebo Samuel is going to miss multiple weeks, quote-unquote. Jawan Jennings, through the first 2 weeks, has already looked pretty nice, even with Deebo in there getting double-digit targets. 7 catches for 100 yards through the first 2 weeks already. Remove Deebo from the equation. Jawan Jennings should get plenty of snap share, plenty of target share. Jawan Jennings is in a very good position, at least for the next couple of weeks. We need a plug-and-play wide receiver. And now the injuries. With the injuries to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, Demarcus Robinson is the number 1. If he's not owned in your league, scoop him up immediately. Tyler Johnson's the number 2. You also need him. He's a must-add if he's available. Then after that, Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell. Tutu might be a little stash away there. Whittington, I guess, is a potential number 4. He's more of an unknown factor. Tutu's been there, though. Tutu had some big games last year when Cooper Kupp was out. Just scoop them both up just in case, just to be safe. Neither one of them should be starting this week. Another name to look at who's really far down this list on ESPN is Jalen Nailor on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he has 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. I mean, of course, in week 1, he only had 1 target and it was a touchdown. In week 2, 4 targets, 3 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. That was with Jordan Addison out. If Jordan Addison remains out, Jalen Nailor, I feel like, is an okay add. Keep him on your bench. We don't know how significant Jordan Addison's injury could be. He had that injury coming into the season. It's already aggravating him and he missed a game. Jalen Nailor will be the number 2 behind Justin Jefferson if Addison remains out. One more guy to keep an eye on here is Josh Reynolds. I think he's the fringe number 1 wide receiver for Denver. Now, Bo Nix hasn't looked great, but Denver is going to be passing a lot, coming from behind in a lot of games. 8 targets in week 1, 5 in week 2, 9 catches through the first 2 weeks with about 140 yards. Josh Reynolds, I think he's up there. Him and Cortland Sutton are like 1A, 1B for the Broncos, I think. And with a team that's going to have to pass as much as they're going to have to pass, he could be a solid option moving forward in your season. And finally, we're going to take a look at this tight end merry-go-round. Tight ends have been a mess this year. Every single week, a different tight end pops off. A different tight end craps the bed. This week, Hunter Henry's a must-add. He's only owned in 10% of leagues. He's owned in my league, of course. But he had 9 catches for 100-plus yards. Again, the Patriots don't have much in terms of wide receiver talent. And Hunter Henry might be the best receiver on that team, and he sure looked like it this week. He's a tight end you want to start moving forward, I think, until he stops looking like he did in week 2. Now, Mike Gesicki here only had a 47% snap share. He was on the field for less than half of the game this past week, but against Kansas City, he did have 7 catches for 91 yards. Now, Kansas City could just be very weak against the tight end. Mike Gesicki looked really good. We remember Miami Mike Gesicki. We remember the gritty. You could add Mike Gesicki if you need tight end help. A lot of people need tight end help right now. He could be a good tight end stash. Again, why tight ends are a mess. Add him, see what happens. Speaking of Bengals tight ends, go ahead and add Eric All Jr., the Iowa product. If there's one thing we know about Iowa, they know how to produce tight ends. 4 catches for 32 yards. He didn't really play in week 1, but 53% snap share. He played more than Mike Gesicki. He played over half the game. He had 4 targets. He went to Iowa. Eric All could be a good stash. A lot of potential moving forward, I think. And one last ad here. Jonnu Smith is a real sleepy ad at tight end, but 6 catches for 53 yards on 7 targets last week. Once Tua left the game with an injury and Skylar Thompson came in, 50% of Skylar Thompson's passes were either to the running back or the tight end, and I could see that trend continuing. It's Skylar Thompson. He's not Tua. There's going to be a lot of dump downs. There's going to be a lot of check downs to the running back, a lot of short passes to the tight ends. Jonnu Smith could see increased volume going forward. And by increased volume, I mean he could see 5 to 7 targets a week easy going forward, I think, without Tua in for the Dolphins. And one more player to keep an eye on, Tyler Huntley, Ravens' former backup, signed by the Miami Dolphins. I think he's better than Skylar Thompson. I think he could take over for Skylar Thompson in a couple weeks if Tua misses significant time. Tyler Huntley, potential starter for the Miami Dolphins, barring Tua's return from injury. If Tua's out long enough, Tyler Huntley should come in and play ahead of Skylar Thompson. He's better than Skylar Thompson. We start Tyler Huntley. That's who was on the wire in week 2. We are on our way to week 3. This has been King of the Hill Sports. I'm Matt Mods. I'm still depressed about losing all those matches by as little points as I did. Hopefully week 3 goes better for all of us. Signing out.